welcome to another video in our series about the roles of a biblical wife. Now this is video number 5, so that means we already did 4 videos. Now if you haven't seen those videos yet, I will put the link to the playlist up here, but they are about being the gatekeeper of your home, being the provider of the food, why you are your husband's helper, and why that is a beautiful role that you have, and what it means to be submissive to your husband, because that often gets misinterpreted and it's actually a beautiful thing. So if you haven't seen any of those videos or one of those, I would highly suggest you watch those videos as well, because I think they are really great. So I would definitely go watch those. But today I wanted to talk to you about being respectful to your husband and why it's important to show him respect. And more importantly, I wanted to share with you 10 ways or 10 different things you could do in order to show him respect and to let him know that you actually do respect him, because receiving respect is actually something that a man really needs. Now, there is a book, Love and Respect, by Dr. Emerson Edderichs, and that book talks all about the reason why women are more in need of love and men are more in need of respect. And there are multiple books that talk about why men need respect. So I will link a few down below that I think are really good to read about on this topic. But what I wanted to really focus on today was the 10 ways in which you can actually show respect. Because in my opinion, I think it's really important to know why you should respect your husband, but it's more important for me to know how do I actually do that, right? So that is what I wanted to talk about today. Now, for those that don't know me yet, my name is Stephanie. I have been a wife for 12 and a half years, actually, since yesterday. And I did a fun video about 12 secrets to a happy marriage, which I will also link up here. But I've been married for 12 and a half years. We have 3 beautiful children, and I am a true homebody. I love being at home. I love being a homemaker. I love taking care of the home. I love being at home. So that is something that I love to share about on this channel. And if you love content like that, I would love for you to subscribe. But let's get started with our 10 things that you could do to show more respect to your husband. Now, the first one is something that I, as a wife, actually very much appreciate as well, and that is undivided attention. And I think in today's society, that is something that is actually pretty tough to receive, because a lot of times we are just so distracted by our phones, and constantly we hear beeps and sounds and all the things, it shakes or whatever it does, and we get so distracted by our phones and by other things. So having undivided attention actually tells somebody that you really do care a lot about that person. And I know that if my husband is sitting next to me and he is looking up something on his phone, and I talk to him and he doesn't really hear me, it doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't love me. I know that. But if he actually puts the phone down and actually says, "Hey, I'm very interested in what you're saying. Tell me more. What are you talking about? What do you want to share with me?" That actually gives me a lot of respect for what I want to say, for my opinion, for what I have to say. And that is actually going vice versa. So that also works for a husband. So one of the easiest things that you can do is whenever he comes home, put that phone away, put it in a drawer, put it on a cabinet, wherever you want to put it, but get rid of that phone and make sure that that thing does not distract you and that you can actually listen to what he has to say. And then you can talk about his day, whatever he did at his job. But something that is really easy to do is just give him undivided attention. So turn off everything that is trying to distract you and make sure you are focused on him and him alone. Now, along with that comes being genuinely interested. So with putting your phone down, you actually show him that you care about him and that you are interested in what he has to say, but make sure that you actually show that in the way that you have a conversation. So he can talk a lot to you and you can actually put your phone away, but if you're still not listening, it can just go past you. And that just shows you that you're not genuinely interested and that you don't really care about what he's saying. So make sure that when you have a conversation, so when you ask him, "Hey, how was your day? What did you do at your job? How are you feeling?" I don't know, things like that. When you ask something like that, make sure that you actually really listen, which is another skill that is kind of lost in this day and age. But make sure that you really listen to what he says, repeat some of the things that he says, make sure that you show him that you know what he's talking about, that you care about what he's talking about, and that you try to understand what he says. So make sure that you are genuinely interested in what he says. Because if it's something that he cares about, it should actually be something that you care about. Even though you don't have to know all the ins and outs of a certain subject, if it's something that he is interested in, then it should be somewhat of an interest for you too. Now, number 3 is to be vocal about your appreciation to him. A lot of times we think, and even though us women, we basically need that confirmation all the time. We love to hear every single day, I love you. And men are not really wired that way. They will say, I love you. And if they say it today, that still applies to next week. So why should they say it 10 more times? Women actually do really love hearing that. And even though a man is not necessarily wired that way, it does really bless him to say that you appreciate what he does. And I love to tell my husband that I'm so thankful for doing the job that he does, for working every single day to provide for our family, to say thank you when he does the dishes for me, to say thank you when he puts away the garbage on Saturday. Just saying thank you and to just show that you actually really appreciate what he does for your family. Be vocal. Don't expect him to know that you appreciate him. Just like you want to hear from him that he loves you, even though you know he does, it still really blesses you when he says, I love you. And that goes both ways. So tell him that you appreciate him, because that is something that really builds him up. And that actually brings us to our next point, which is that you should build your husband up. And that can come from showing your appreciation, but it also comes from other things and just saying, hey, I love what you're doing here, or I think you're doing a great job. Things like that, just showing that you see what he does, even though, for example, your husband does the cooking and it tastes like nothing. It tastes really bland. You don't really like the food. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, you really don't know how to cook, let me handle it from now on. Instead of saying that, build him up and say, honey, I really appreciate that you did this for us. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I will show you next time how to add a little more salt, or how to cut the onions, or whatever. You can just say, hey, thank you so much for actually doing this and for taking the time to do your thing in the kitchen, instead of just saying this tastes like nothing. So really try to build him up always. And that actually means that you speak positively to him and about him. But that is something that we will discuss later. But it's really important to speak positively about your husband, and most importantly also to your husband. So make sure you build him up with your words and don't try to tear him down. And that even applies to when you're fighting. Don't try to take him down with your words. Try to build him up. And if you are fighting, and a lot of times I don't really have the power to build him up at the time when we have an argument, we're not really fighting, we just have an argument about something, I don't necessarily have the words to build him up, then I just don't say anything. It's better to be quiet than to tear him down. So if you don't have the capacity to build him up, at least keep your mouth shut and say something positively in a few hours or when you're ready for it, but don't tear him down. That might have been a better wording for this point, but don't tear him down. Try to always build him up, even when you don't feel like it. Focus on the positive, which is something that we basically should do to everybody, in my opinion, but just really make sure that you do that to your husband, because he is the one that you're going to spend your lifetime with. Now, the next point has a lot to do with that again, but that is to speak positively about him to your children. Even when he's not around, make sure that you always speak positively about your husband to your children. So when he is at work, tell your children how much you appreciate your husband being at work and taking care of your family. Or say to your children, oh, I can't wait for daddy to come home. Let's make sure that the house looks clean and let's turn on some candles to show our appreciation for dad. Let's make him feel welcome when he comes home. Things like that are really important to show to your children, because even though you think you show your love to him all day, every day, it's really important to be vocal about it, not only to him, but also to your children. And I love doing that. I love telling my children that I love their dad so much, that I really appreciate him working all day, every day. And things like that are just really important to share with your children as well. And it teaches them to also show appreciation to their dad. And that is something that is actually really important for a husband, or for a dad in particular, to get respect from their children too. And one of those ways is to teach them to do the same things that we're talking about here, but to also teach them to be appreciative to their dad and what he does for the family. So really make sure that you talk positively about your husband to your children. Now, another thing is something that we actually talked about in that 12 Secrets to a Healthy Marriage video, and that is to be respectful about your husband and to your husband in public and towards other people. So towards your family, towards your friends. Let's say you go to your parents and you just have dinner there. When you're at the dinner table with your mom and dad, don't talk about your husband and don't say things that are negative about your husband. Because first off, they have nothing to do with your marriage. That is something between you and your husband. So don't do that ever. But also, it doesn't show respect to him. And even though he's not there, he might actually get to know what happens. And it also will make your parents become less respectful to your husband. So it is literally gonna cause negativity in all areas. So please don't talk negative about your husband ever when he's not there. That is very disrespectful, and that is not something that is gonna build your husband up. So always speak positively about your husband. And that also means when you are with your friends and when you have a girls' night, for example, with your friends, and they're all talking about things that their husband does that they don't like, or things that should be different, or I wish my husband did that. You know, you can easily get in that conversation when you are with friends. Make sure that you stay away from it. Don't fall into the trap of talking negatively about your husband. Just try to stay out of it and change the subject even. Make sure that you don't step into that trap and start talking negatively about your husband, because it's very disrespectful. Okay, so number 7 is to show your love in public. Now, I'm not saying that you should make out in the middle of the street. Please don't. What I'm saying is that you just show your husband that you love him even in public. So don't feel shy for holding his hand or for kissing him or something like that. Please don't feel like you shouldn't do that. It is very normal, it is very natural, and it's very good actually for your relationship to show other people that you love each other. So if I hold his hand in public, so when we're doing our shopping, I actually am saying, hey, I'm very proud of who you are. I am proud to hold this hand because I want to show everybody that is walking around here that you are mine, and I'm very proud of that. So that actually does show him that you really are appreciative of him, and that can give him a little bit of a boost. And another showing love in public situation can be showing love in front of your children. I am a person of physical touch. I have said that before, but I love hugging him and cuddling him in front of our children because I think it is very healthy for children to see their mom and dad be very happy and very in love with each other. So it is very vital, I think, for a healthy family dynamic to show your children that you love your husband. So kiss him in front of your children, even if they say, ew, that is so gross. But I really think it's very healthy for your children to see you and your husband kissing and hugging, and make sure that you show your children and show your family and anybody in the city that you love this man to pieces. And there is nothing wrong with doing that. In number 8 is actually something completely different, and that is that you can ask your husband if you can help him, if you can do something for him, if there's something that he needs you with. So that is something that really shows him that you want to do what he wants you to do. So make sure you are available to him. And that is not only in bed, but also in your time and in your resources and in what you're doing. So if your husband, for example, has a lot to do around the house and you say, hey, what can I do for you? Can I maybe clean the yard? Can I get rid of all the leaves or whatever it is? Ask him, what can I do to take something off your plate, put it on my plate to help you and to make you feel more loved? Ask him, is there something that I can do for you that is going to help you, that is going to bless you, because I want to be available for you. And along with that is actually number 9, and that is to ask him for his help. So if there's something that you cannot do without him, then ask for his help. It is very good for his ego to say, hey, I can't do this, I need a man for this. That is going to be really good for his ego. That can be something as little as opening a jar. Ask him, hey, honey, I can't do this by myself. Can you please help me? And don't milk that. Don't ask him for his help for every single thing that you could actually do yourself, because that is not respectful. That is just wasting his time to do things that you could actually do yourself. So make sure that you only ask him for help that you actually need help with, because he will notice very quickly that you actually are acting lazy instead of asking for help. And nobody likes laziness. And I actually did a video about that you all actually really enjoy, which I will link up here too. But laziness is never a good idea. So stop being lazy and just do the thing that needs to get done. But sometimes we just need help, right? We are women. We can't do all the things. We are not always as strong as our man. Ask him for his help on things that you cannot do yourself, and that will actually show him that you respect him, that you love the way that he can do things that you can't do, because we are very different as men and women, and that is something that is really important to also acknowledge. And then lastly, something that I really think is very good for showing him respect, but for also showing him that you love him and that you really care about him, and that is to surprise him. So do something that he really loves, that he doesn't expect, and that could be bake him something that he really enjoys that you hardly ever make. Or buy the fun lingerie that is going to surprise him in bed. I actually found an amazing company that has very fun lingerie, and that is actually a Christian-based company. And what I love about it is they have a model-free Instagram account. And so you can just go around, look on their Instagram account or on their website, and everything is without models. It is just showing the piece on the hanger. So you can also show that piece to your husband if you want that for Christmas. For example, if you say, hey, I would love to have this bra for Christmas, you can just show him the picture without it showing too much of some other woman. Anyway, that was a little side note about Ginger and Peach lingerie, which I will link in the description below, because I actually have a 10% discount code for that brand as well, because I just love it and I thought I really need to reach out to her. So that will be linked down below, but surprise your husband with something that is going to be fun to him. Anyway, those are 10 things that I love to do for my husband in order to show him respect and to show him that I love him, because there's nothing more important to me than to show my husband that I really love him and that I want him to feel the best that he can. So if that is something that you actually appreciate too, then I would suggest just following one of these things, and let's start by being positive and trying to build them up all the time, because that is something that's really going to make such a difference in your marriage and in your husband's life. So anyway, I really hope that that was inspiring to you, that you loved today's video. And if you love content like this, or if you are into homemaking like I am, then I would love to have you as a subscriber, and I would love to see you in my next video.